I put every single NHL superstar back into their prime. That is right, I went across the entire NHL and put NHL superstars who used to be superstars but now kind of fell off. Maybe they're a little washed, but I went through, customized every single one of them and put them back into their prime. So they simulate a lot better here in NHL 24. And there's actually quite a bit of players that I messed with over the course of the NHL's roster. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those players. So obviously the first choice is the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, we got Sidney Crosby now at a 97 overall. Evgeny Malkin's a 95. Carlson's a 95. Letang is up to a 91. All four of these guys are really not in their prime anymore. A guy like Brad Marchand, kind of not in his prime anymore, 35 years old. He had multiple 100-point seasons, I believe. Or actually, he only had one, but regardless, he was a very consistent scorer. Calgary has Jonathan Huberdeau up to a 93 overall. In his prime, he put up 115 points, also 30 goals. Safe to say he's probably never getting back to that. I mean, in real life, he's still struggling. I also have Nazem Kadri, who's a 90 overall. In his contract year with Colorado, he put up 28 goals and 87 points, so I think a 90 is fair for him. Carolina has Brent Burns up to a 92 overall. One of the best scoring D-man in the entire NHL. I mean, he had damn near a 30-goal season. 22, I mean, this guy was a goal-scoring machine as a defenseman. Chicago has Hart Trophy winner Taylor Hall at a 90 overall. His prime was pretty much just one season with the New Jersey Devils. Outside of that, he's been pretty mediocre his entire career. Dallas Stars have Ryan Suter at a 92 overall. Now, back in the old NHL games like NHL 14, 15, this guy was like a 95 overall D-man, which I never understood, so that's the reason he's not going to be a 95, but I did bump him up to a 92, a very good defensive defenseman, but I mean, EA used to heavily overrate him back in the day. They also have Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn up to a 90 overall. These guys were lethal. They were a great duo back in the day, but unfortunately now, they're not really what they used to be. I mean, Jamie Benn's 34 years old. Tyler Seguin's pretty young still, only 31. Detroit, of course, has a prime Patrick Kane, 95 overall. He sims already amazingly at an 89, so I can't imagine what he's going to do here. The LA Kings have Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar, 94 and 93 respectively. I mean, these guys are the faces of the franchise over the last like 12 years. The Ottawa Senators are going to have a prime Giroux and prime Tarasenko, a 92 and 90, so they should simulate a lot better in this simulation. I mean, overall, they have a pretty good team. I mean, in real life, they are struggling, but in the roster on paper is pretty good. Now, Tampa Bay, I did put Victor Hedman back into his prime because, let's be honest, 2 years ago, he was a lot better than he is now, so he's a 94, and of course, their captain, Steven Stamkos, 94 overall. I mean, the dude scored 60 goals one season. I believe way back in his third season ever in the NHL, fourth season ever. Toronto is going to get prime John Tavares, 93 overall. Only one more better than he already is right now in the game, so it's not that big of a difference. Also, Mark Giordano at a 90 overall. This guy won the Norris a couple years ago. And of course, last but not least, we are going to get a prime Alexander Ovechkin, 96 overall. He should score like 60 goals consistently in the simulation. Also, I bumped up Evgeny Kuznetsov because for like a 3 or 4 year stretch, this guy was a very good number one centerman, picking up a lot of points on a pretty good Washington team before they won the Stanley Cup. And for goalies, there were only a couple goalies that I did mess with, one of them being John Gibson at a 91 overall. Also, Sergei Bobrovsky is back to his Vezina form, 92. He is 35 in real life. God damn, he's that old? Marc-Andre Fleury is up to a 91 overall. The Montreal Canadiens are going to have a prime Carey Price. That's probably the biggest difference out of any team in the video, 95 overall. So they should simulate a lot better, hopefully, maybe. Who knows? Now, the biggest difference for a team in this video, honestly, is probably the New York Rangers, as they're going to have a backup Jonathan Quick at a 91 overall, alongside a prime 92 Shesterkin. So they're going to be a tough team to beat, that is for sure. And the last goalie I did mess with was Andrei Vasilevsky, 94 overall. He's a 93 already in the game, so not that big of a difference, but he definitely isn't in the prime of his career anymore. Still probably the best goalie in the entire NHL, though. All right, so now that we know all the players that I messed with and put them back in their prime, let's go ahead and simulate 5 full seasons and see who goes on and wins the Stanley Cup year after year. All right, so at the end of year number 1, the Boston Bruins are going to end up finishing as the best team in the NHL as they win 55 games, followed by the Dallas Stars, 153. The Devils were up to 50. Florida, Winnipeg was good. Pittsburgh was pretty good. good as well, 46 wins. I mean, usually they're around there, so I honestly expected them to be like at the top of the NHL, but I guess not. Toronto is good, Columbus, Seattle, Detroit. At the bottom, we have the Philadelphia Flyers, St. Louis, Chicago, Nashville, Buffalo, Calgary, who I mean literally got two of their best players in their prime now with a 93 Huberdeau and a 90 Kadri. Austin Matthews is going to go ahead and lead the entire NHL in goal scoring with 62 goals and points with 110, followed by Stammers 107. Kucherov was up there 106. Crosby had 105. Ovi 102. David Pastrnak 102. Marchand was up there. Pedersen. Taylor Hall had 99. Now for goals other than Matthews, Ovi is going to have the most at 59. Stammer had 53. Kucherov 53. Tarasenko was up there at 53. Bedard as an 18-year-old had 51. Kaprizov. Nazem Kadri had 47 as well as Pasta. For defenseman, Erik Karlsson's going to lead 22 goals and 93 points. Cale Makar had 83. Hedman 74. Heiskanen 73. Drew Doughty was up there. Dougie Hamilton. Brent Burns had a pretty good season as well, 64 points. So it looks like Allmark, Ottinger, and Vanacek are all going to break the NHL wins record for a goaltender in a single season. Allmark had 54, Ottinger 52, and Vanacek 50. And for the shutout side, Allmark's going to lead with 9. Bobrovsky had 8, Vasilevsky 8, and Merzlikins 7. And here's our Stanley Cup playoff matchups in year number 1. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have a matchup between the Dallas Stars and the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey is honestly surprising getting here. I don't think I adjusted anybody on their team. Dallas, I mean, we got Sagan and Ben. Also, Ryan Suter back into their prime, so I'm not that surprised to see them here. Well, let's go on and see who's going to take home the Stanley Cup at the end of season number 1. And the Dallas Stars are going to rally off 4 straight after being down 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals. They come back and defeat the New Jersey Devils in 6 games as they are your Stanley Cup champions. Here in year number 1, I mean, I'm honestly not that surprised to see them here. They were honestly one of my favorites, being the fact that we upgraded 3 of their players up to a 90+ overall. They already have a great team in real life, so hats off to the Dallas Stars for getting the job done, doing what they couldn't do in 2020, as Jason Robertson is going to win the Conn Smythe, 12 goals and 28 points. As here comes their captain, Jamie Benn, back into his Art Ross prime form, lifting the Stanley Cup for the very first time in his NHL career, as Dallas has gone all the way in year number 1. Jack Hughes is actually going to lead all skaters in points for the playoffs with 31, followed by Toffoli's 29, also 13 goals. Jack Hughes is going to lead all skaters in points for the playoffs with 31. Toffoli had 29 and 13 goals. Robertson had 28. Jesper Bratt, 26. Joe Pavelski was up there. Jamie Benn had a pretty good postseason, as well as John Tavares. Austin Matthews is going to take home pretty much all the major individual awards. The Norris to Erik Karlsson, the Calder to Connor Bedard, the Conn Smythe to Robo. Linus Allmark is going to win the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Sidney Crosby. So at the end of the second season, the Red Wings are going to be the best team in the NHL, the only team to win 50 games. They won 51, 110 points, followed by Tampa Bay. Colorado was up there, Florida, Toronto, Columbus yet again for some reason are simulating very well. Montreal was up there. I'm willing to bet that Carey Price absolutely carried them. Pittsburgh as well. Carolina, Calgary had a bounce back season. The bottom of the NHL, we have Arizona, Chicago, St. Louis, and LA, despite the fact that it put their 2 best players back into their prime. Nikita Kucherov is going to lead all skaters in goals with 64 and points with 120, followed by Evgeny Malkin's 108. Alex Ovechkin had 107. Marner was up there 105. Stammer 103. Matthews 101. And Crosby, McKinnon, and Jack Hughes all had 100-point seasons. For the goals side, of course, Kucherov led with 64. Ovi had 62, finally breaking out into 97 overall, or 96, I mean. Matthews had 54. Crosby had 50. Kaprizov 49. Kyle Connor was up there. Vladimir Tarasenko had 46, as well as Evgeny Malkin, who had 45. For defenseman, Cale Makar is going to lead 92 points. Karlsson was 1 behind with 91. The other Karlsson, John Karlsson, had 77. Brent Burns had 67. For goalies, Ville Husso is going to lead in wins with 51, followed by Samsonov's 50. Merzlikins have 48. Now for shutouts in the NHL, Marc-Andre Fleury is going to lead with 6. Actually, going to be a 4-way tie between him, Merzlikins, Vasi, and Samsonov. All had 6 apiece. And And here's our matchups for the Stanley Cup playoffs in year number 2. And in the Stanley Cup finals, we have the Winnipeg Jets up against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But regardless, let's see who's going to go on and win the Stanley Cup at the end of the second season. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to absolutely batter the Winnipeg Jets in 5 games in the Stanley Cup finals. It was really not even close. Toronto is by far the better team. And I mean, I messed with John Tavares and Mark Giordano, so I was expecting Toronto to go all the way and finally break their Stanley Cup curse that stems over 50 years. Also breaking the Canadian curse on the way because Canada has struggled as well. William Nylander is going to win the Conn Smythe, 6 goals and 31 points for the kid. And there it is, the Stanley Cup being raised in Toronto for the very first time since 1967 as the captain, John Tavares, who came home for one thing and one thing only, and that was a Stanley Cup, finally is going to be able to raise it here as Toronto is Stanley Cup champions. William Nylander is going to lead all skaters in points for the playoffs with 31. Marner was not far behind with 30. Matthews at 18 goals and 29 points. Barkov was up there. John Tavares had a pretty good playoff run. I guess it's Nikita Kucherov's turn to take home all the major individual awards. The Norris yet again to Erik Karlsson. The Conn Smythe obviously to Nylander. Bobrovsky's going to win the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Sidney Crosby. So the Pittsburgh Penguins at the end of year number 3 are going to finish as the best team in the NHL. They won 51 games, followed by Tampa Bay, who also won 50, as well as the defending champs in the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Rangers were up there. Vancouver was good. Vegas, Minnesota, and Dallas. At the bottom, we have the San Jose Sharks, Arizona, and Philadelphia. William Nylander is going to continue to rise after winning the Conn Smythe, leading all skaters in scoring with 120 points. Followed by Matthews, 119. Marchand had 110. Mitch Marner was up there. Kadri had 104, his best season ever. Crosby, 104. Kaprizov, Stammer, Jack Eichel had a 100-point season. For the goal side, Austin Matthews is going to lead with 74 goals on the season, followed by Kaprizov's 59, Ovi had 58, Stammer 56, Pasta had 52, Kadri had 51, Crosby was up there, John Tavares 44, Bedard had 43, Erik Karlsson again is going to lead all defensemen in points this time with 85. It was really not that close. I mean, Quinn Hughes was up there. Brent Burns had 21 goals, a pretty good year by him. For goalies, Tristan Jarry is going to lead in wins with 51, and for shutouts, it's going to be Andrei Vasilevsky, who had 8, followed by Shesterkin, Jarry, Binnington, and Demko all had 7. And for the Stanley Cup playoffs, here is our matchups for year number 3. And in the Stanley Cup finals, we have the Vegas Golden Knights up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 absolute powerhouses. Let's see who's going to go on and take home the Stanley Cup at the end of season number 3. And the greatest team of all time in the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to go on and win their very first Stanley Cup of the simulation. Obviously not their very first in the past like 5 years, as this is their 3rd since 2020. I mean, I upgraded Steven Stamkos, upgraded Victor Hedman, as well as Vasi, so they're going to be even better than they already are. And they simulate damn well already in NHL 24, so I'm not surprised whatsoever. The captain, Steven Stamkos, is going to win the Conn Smythe, 10 goals and 31 points, a very good postseason by him. As the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be able to raise another Stanley Cup here on home ice, as here comes their captain, Steven Stamkos, coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the 3rd time in his NHL career, as the Tampa Bay Lightning have gone all the way here in year number 3. And Nikita Kucherov is actually going to end up having 3 more goals and 1 more point than Steven Stamkos, but Stammer's still going to take home that Conn Smythe. Braden Point had 26. Crosby had a very good postseason, 10 goals, 25 points. Huberdeau had 6 goals and 23 points, probably his best postseason ever. Nylander is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. Matthews wins the Maurice Richard. The Norris again to Erik Karlsson. The Conn Smythe, of course, the Stammer. The Vezina to Tristan Jarry. And the Selke is going to go to Sidney Crosby yet again. So at the end of year number 4, Carolina is going to finish as the best team in the NHL, 49 wins and 107 points, followed by the Rangers, who actually won more games but had less overtime losses. Dallas was up there, Pittsburgh, Anaheim, Colorado, Nashville, and Winnipeg. At the bottom, we have San Jose yet again, Calgary, RA Poverty franchise, Minnesota, Seattle, and Philly. Connor McDavid has finally awoken, leading all players in scoring with 126 points, followed by Draisaitl's 114, Matthews had 110. Kucherov was up there at 108. Crosby 108. Ovi had 104. John Tavares had 101. I don't believe Johnny T has ever scored 100 points in his entire career. I believe his highs was like in the 90s. Actually, no, it's 86. Really? No, it's 88 back in 2018-19. His first season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, Patrick Kane was up there as well as Mitch Marner. Now for goals, Alexander Ovechkin's going to lead with 61, followed by Matthews 58, McDavid at 53, John Tavares at 51, Kucherov 47, Dard had 47, Crosby was up there 46. Finally, Brent Burns is going to lead all defensemen in scoring, 90 points and also 21 goals. Carlson had more goals at 24. That's kind of wild. Igor Shesterkin's going to lead all goalies and wins with 50, and for shutouts, it's going to be UC Saros and Aiden Hill, who each had 8 shutouts apiece. And here's what our matchups look like in year number 4 for the playoffs. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we have yet again the Winnipeg Jets making it, but this time they're up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay going for their second Stanley Cup in the video. Let's see if they can do it. And the Winnipeg Jets are going to do it as they almost blew a 3-1 series lead in the Stanley Cup Finals, but luckily take it here in game number 6 over the Tampa Bay Lightning as they go on and become the second Canadian team in this video to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, I don't think I touched anybody on Winnipeg. I didn't put any of their superstars back into their prime because they're all pretty much are in their prime. But regardless, they're going to get it done here against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the greatest team of all time, as Nikolai Ehlers is going to win the Conn Smythe, 8 goals and 34 points for the kid. And I mean, if Winnipeg ever does this in real life, it would be an absolute treat to see, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. And here comes their captain, Adam Lowry, who, I mean, no offense, but honestly has got to be the worst captain currently in the NHL. He's coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the Winnipeg Jets as they have gone all the way here in year number 4. It should have been Mark Scheifele because he laid that hit on whoever that was in Montreal. And for the playoffs, Steven Stamkos is going to lead not only in goals with 18, but points with 36. That's crazy. He definitely would have won the Conn Smythe. Kucherov had 35, Hedman had 35, Ehlers 34, Kyle Connor had 30, Mark Scheifele 28. McDavid is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. Ovi wins the Maurice Richard. The Norris is going to go to Brent Burns. Finally, not Erik Karlsson. The Conn Smythe, obviously, to Ehlers, the Vezina to Freddie Anderson, and the Selke will go to Anze Kopitar. At the end of the 5th and final season, Dallas is going to finish as the best team, winning 53 games, followed by the Red Wings. They were up there. Toronto, Carolina, Tampa Bay is always going to be a great team. Buffalo, Vancouver. Where on earth are the Winnipeg Jets, the defending Stanley Cup champions? They did make the playoffs, 14th in the entire league, so that's not bad, I guess. Nikita Kucherov is going to lead all skaters in scoring with 119 points, followed by Stammers, 111. Ovi had 101. Marchand, 97. Malkin was up there. Carlson had a great season. Pasternak or Pasternak. For goals, Ovi's going to lead with 61, followed by Tage Thompson, who is brutal in real life right now, but he's going to score 50 goals. Matthews also had 50. Kaprizov 49. Stammer 49. Crosby was up there 46. Nazem Kadri. Of course, Erik Karlsson's going to lead all D-man in scoring with 97 points. For goalies, Ottinger is going to lead in wins with 53. And for shutouts, it's going to be Connor Hellebuck, who had 9 on the season. And here we go for year number 5, the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is our matchups. We have another round of Tampa Bay versus Toronto in round number 1. That should be good. And yet again in the Stanley Cup finals, we have a rematch between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay is here for the 3rd time in the video, going for their 2nd Stanley Cup. But let's see who's going to take it home at the end of the 5th and final season. And yet again, the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to go all the way, winning the Stanley Cup as they beat the Vegas Golden Knights in, I believe, 4 games in the Stanley Cup finals. A clean sweep. It was not even close. It pretty much just dominated them, and I mean, what do you really expect with the greatest team of all time in the Tampa Bay Lightning for NHL 24? They simulate so well, and I mean, helping them out is just going to make them simulate even better. Yet again, Steven Stamkos is going to take home the Conn Smythe, 14 goals and 39 points. Jesus, he went off in the postseason. And here comes the captain, Stammer, coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the 4th time in his NHL career, as Tampa Bay proving yet again that they are the greatest team in NHL history. Kucherov is going to win the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross and Hart Trophy. Alexander Ovechkin is going to win the Maurice Richard. The Norris, again, to Erik Karlsson. The Conn Smythe, of course, the Stammer. The Vezina to Andre Vasilevsky. And the Selke will go to Sid the Kid Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that is going to do it for this video, boys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more NHL content just like this. Also, turn the notifications on so you don't miss a single live stream or video that I put out. And there you go. We have gone ahead and put all the NHL superstars that are still in the NHL back into their prime and see how differently that affected the league. And well, Tampa Bay pretty much dominated. They won, what was it, 3 Stanley Cups? Or no, 2 Stanley Cups and 3 Stanley Cup finals throughout the video. Also, Toronto got one, Dallas got one, as well as Winnipeg. So shout out to the Canadian teams. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.